Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to part 2 of my historical romance recommendations. I'm so excited to be bringing these to you. Sorry it took me a while, but something I've been trying to do in the last couple months is read some new historical romance authors, and I have, for sure there is 2 new ones in this, as well as some new recommendations for some previous authors I mentioned before. These are books I all read in the last couple months. I'm really excited to be bringing these to you, and I hope you enjoy them. If you haven't seen my first recommendations video, I will link it up above in the cards. It's one of my most popular videos that I have, so I really wanted to get another one out to you because I read a lot of historical romance. It's just usually the same authors, hence I was trying to read new ones. So let's dive in. I have some really fun ones for you here. So let's just get going. Let's start off with my favorite one of the last couple months. I loved this historical romance so much. And if you're someone who follows me regularly, you'll know at the beginning of October, I read this and I just raved about it. And that is The Heir by Grace Barrows. This is the first book in the Wyndhams, the Duke's Obsession. It's split into these 2 parts of the series. First, there's a trilogy about the male heirs in the line, and then there is a trilogy about the daughters in the line. This is about Gail Wyndham and Anna Seton. And the reasons why I love this book so much, this isn't like full reviews of these, this is again recommendations, so I want to tell you what I love about each of them and like why it might be a good one for you. So this book, The Heir, is set up where Gail Wyndham, his father is really pushing him to get married and start having children, so much so that he's even willing to kind of push his son into marrying his mistress because he wants an heir so bad. The Duke of Wyndham, he has 8 children, but he lost his 2 oldest, I think, in the war. And so Gail was never meant to be the heir, but circumstances have kind of forced him into it. And he's kind of reluctant. He's not in a hurry, but his father keeps like pushing him into this. Anna Seton is his new housekeeper, the woman who kind of runs his London house, and she's recently been hired, and she is, she's so much fun. Again, some things to really like about this one because I don't want to spoil anything for you. This is actually a pretty long historical romance. It's about 450 pages, which is, again, pretty long. However, I adored it so much. Main things I like. Number 1, the conflict in this is actually very legit. It took me a while to figure it out. Like there's a mystery. And again, with it being so long, for a while I was kind of like, can you just tell me what's going on? Because I was afraid this was a miscommunication situation, which is, you know, the number 1 thing you're going to see in any romance, because the conflict usually isn't something super serious. It's, you know, usually something to do with people misinterpreting each other. However, this one, it was a very legitimate conflict, and I loved that because after reading so many pages into the book, I was like, if this isn't a good conflict, it's really going to bring down my rating of this book. But it was really exciting. Also, the power dynamic is not an issue in my opinion. And I don't want to spoil why it's not an issue, but I know for some people in romance, if there's too much of a power dynamic, it can be a big turnoff. And I understand that. Like I said, she's his housekeeper, and that can get kind of hinky if consent isn't very fully realized. This book, for the time that it originally came out, this originally was an early 2000s release, the consent is very well spoken about. Each time there is a sexual situation, consent is expressly given. And so you don't have to worry about that in this. Not to say that he, you know, doesn't push things a little farther than he should, but there's always express consent, and I love that. Second, this book has something, and you've heard me rave about this if you've saw any of my other videos about it. Physical touch is used in an amazing way. I don't know if you've heard of love languages. There's a whole book. This is something that's really big in my faith. I don't know how much other people talk about this. Maybe if you've ever had any kind of like counseling with your significant other or things like that, you maybe went over what love languages are. Well, there's 5 of them. And physical touch tends to get a bad rap because that always usually just leads to sexual situations. And if physical touch isn't your main love language, you maybe don't know how to explain it. Well, physical touch is mine. And it does not always mean a sexual situation. Obviously, physical love is very important when physical touch is your love language because that's how you feel loved. But there are other things about it. It's just needing to be close to people, needing to feel someone beside you, have them hold your hand, show that they love you by hugs and just small touches that show your appreciation and love for the person. And this book, guys, just fulfills all of that because our main character, he 100% has that as physical touch. And I would love to talk to the author and know if that was done on purpose or if she just wanted to make him a touchy-feely person. But it was so great because the affection he has for his family members is shown through touch, as well as when he's building a relationship with Anna. And it was amazing to me. And now I've talked enough about this book. I really suggest it. I haven't read the next book yet, but I really want to because it's about another character. We also get the whole family pretty filled out in this book, and I loved it. Next is an author that I have read many of her books, and this is the newest book in the Wilds of Winslow Castle. That is Say No to the Duke by Eloisa James. I love Eloisa James. I've read almost all of her books. I really like them a lot. This one is about a girl named Betsy, and she has a lot of reservations about love because her mother actually cheated on her father and ran away with someone else. And so she's always felt that she needs to live a very respectable life to bring honor to her family and kind of redeem what her mother did. And so she doesn't want to love the person she marries too much because she's afraid it will show too much like passion or show too much, you know, remembrances of her mother. And it's a little bit foolish. I'll say in this one, the conflict is a little ridiculous to me, but it has a couple of my favorite things in romance. That's having an older woman or man be kind of like a mentor slash the instigator for a younger couple's relationship, really kind of like pushing them together because they realize that both of them should be together and they need to figure it out. Also, Betsy really wants to get more freedom. She wants to be able to dress up like a boy and have a night on the town and not worry about how she'll be treated as a woman. And so she enters into a bet with Jeremy, who is a good friend of her brother's, that if she wins this game of pool, he'll take her out for the night and let her, you know, kind of do this thing and get to have some freedom. And it's a really cute situation. It was really, really fun. And it was just some kind of like situations I haven't seen before. I've seen women dress up as boys, but more out of necessity usually in historical romance because they need to, like, you know, they want to fight in a war or they want to do this or whatever. I've never seen it be like pure fun. And so I really like that. So this is my second recommendation. Next, this list wouldn't be complete if I didn't have Tessa Dare on here. I love her. I, of course, love her entire Wallflower trilogy. Well, it's going to be more than a trilogy. It's a series. 3 of them are out so far. This is the first book in the Castles Ever After series, and this is about Isolde, and who goes by Izzy, and then the Duke, which it doesn't have his name on here, and I've forgotten it. I do this every time. Ransom. Duke Ransom. And this series, Castle Ever After, is based that there was this old Duke, and he owned these 4 different properties, and he left them all to women instead of, like, well, instead of men. And so Izzy is down on her luck because since her father died, she's been really poor, and she's been relying on the charity of her father's fans because her father wrote novels, and she's been relying on their generosity, and so she feels like she needs to keep this certain image so that she'll be taken care of, basically, because she has no one else to do it. And she gets gifted this castle by this Duke who she doesn't even really know, but when she gets there, it's still inhabited by Ransom, who he's been in an accident, and so he's become kind of a recluse, and his castle has been sold out from under him and was sold to this Duke who then gifted it to her. And he's not ready to leave. So this is about their love story. It has a character who is visually impaired, and it was so much fun. So this is Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. Also, we have a Julia Quinn novel, of course. This is one that I had already read before, but I always like to have a Julia Quinn recommendation in my historical romance because I can't do without Julia Quinn, guys. I just can't. This is the first in the Bridgerton prequels, which you can read without having read the original series, which is my favorite romance series of all time. Hello, my name is Jen, and I'm obsessed with the Bridgertons. Welcome. You can actually start this series without it. There's 3 books out in it so far. This one is about Poppy and Andrew Rokesby. So this series is also called like the Rokesby series, but it was first called the Bridgerton prequels because they wanted everyone to know. So Poppy Bridgerton is the older sister of, so she would be like the aunt of the Bridgertons. She's their dad's older sister. And she ends up falling in love with the next door neighbor, Andrew James Rokesby. And it's so much fun. They have a really nice meet cute, which is one of my favorite kind of meet cutes. It's where someone is like injured and the other person rescues them. And it's cute because he always had kind of a low thought about her because she, you know, was the sister of one of his friends, and he just didn't have really great like thoughts about her or whatever. And I love that kind of like childhood acquaintances to lovers is one of my favorites. So this one was so cute. It's so cute. I love it. So this is The Other Miss Bridgerton by Julia Quinn, and it's the best. So there you go. All right, and then I have one last series to recommend because I don't have the first one of this with me right now, which I'll put a picture up in a second. I gave the first 3 to my sister to read because I devoured them. This was actually the first author I tried when I was doing this like series of trying new authors, and I devoured the first 3 books in 3 days. They were so good. So this is the second one I'm holding up, Marrying Winterbourne, but the first one is actually called Cold-Hearted Rake by Lisa Kleypas. This one is so beautiful. So this series is all set up when this Earl, his older cousin, dies, and he has only been married for 3 days. So he has a widow, who, again, I can't remember her name. That's the thing. The stories are all great, but you forget their names pretty quick when you read like 50 million of these. But hold on, what was his name? And so his cousin left behind a widow and 3 younger sisters. And so this Earl, who's now the Earl, never wanted to have any responsibility. So he wants to get his property he's been given, sell it, and go back to living in London. Well, this property has lots of tenants who rely on it. It has a lot of people who depend on it, and that's a responsibility that he doesn't want. And now this widow, who's only been a widow for, you know, she was only married for 3 days, she isn't ready to let him just throw everything away that quickly. And they have really kind of like, I wouldn't call it a hate to love, but it's really antagonistic to love, as well as there is these 3 sisters. This is about one of the sisters marrying Winterbourne. And the things I adored about this, which wasn't really that couple. Like, they were cute, their love story was fine, but I really loved how well we got to know the entire family, which is why I really loved this second book, and I really loved the third one, and I'm about to start the 4th one soon. I'm reading it this month. And I just had such a great time with them. There is a really crazy dangerous element in it, which was not what I was expecting at all. It was so cool. Learning how to take care of an estate, having dealt with a little bit of, there is a little bit of like an abuse situation. Not enough that I would put a trigger warning because it's only like referenced. It's not anything you see on page, but there's some interesting situations in it. And I just fell in love. I mean, I gave the first 3 to my sister right away, which means I loved it because I only send my sister the best ones that I read. So yeah, that would be my 5th recommendation is Cold-Hearted Rake by Lisa Kleypas. That's the first in the Ravenel series. A lot of people said you're not supposed to start with that series, but I did. And with historical romance, it doesn't really matter because you can kind of read those things out of order. However, the Ravenel series, you should read in order because each event directly falls into the next thing. But I loved it so much. So this is 5 new historical book recommendations from me. Let me know what you've been reading lately that you loved. I do have some other new authors that I'll be starting soon. I have one of Sabrina Jeffries, I have Megan Frampton, and I have Joe Goodman, who are all some new ones that I'll be trying. So hopefully I'll have some more recommendations for you soon. Thanks so much for watching. I put up new videos on Mondays and Thursdays, and make sure you check out my new Outlander review series that'll be starting. I just made a PSA Read Outlander video just came out, and the reviews for that will be starting in November. So make sure you subscribe for great content. Thanks so much, and you have a great day. Bye.